Okay, so the story about how I lost my tooth. It's a dinger, right? A lot kind of happened. Um, uh, one point in time, I was being facing felony charges for not what it really was, but it was a forged instrument. I was working for the trash company, and I found a check in the back of the trash truck. It was already pretty much filled out. I brought it to the bank. The lady at the bank was the owner of that check, and that was my sign one. The universe is like, no, you shouldn't. I got in trouble for that. I was facing two different felony charges, and somewhere along the line, I just kind of lost hope. Uh, it was on my third violation, and I had a warrant out for my arrest. And I was in the process of bringing my dogs to my mother. I had gotten my house all cleaned out and packed up because I didn't think I'd be back to be able to live in it and or pay for it. And so I moved it all into my camper. And a while back, I bought an electric longboard for about $4,000. It would go about 40 miles an hour, and but badass. Pardon my language. Really nice electric longboard. Had lights, headlights, brake lights, running lights, and I used that for like a mode of transportation all the time. It was my stress relief besides my dogs. So I had a warrant after the fact of just because I couldn't get to my community service. I didn't have the ability to go from Ridgeway to Paonia every weekend with my vehicle situation and money wise, and so I lost hope, lost my drive for it, and just decided I was going to do the jail time. Hopefully get time served, try to figure it out. And I was bringing my dogs to my mother in Glenwood Springs, and I was going to turn myself in Paonia, in Colorado. And I remember I got here, had an emotional talk with her. I was like, somewhat drunk. I drank pretty close to a 30-pack of beer. I was about halfway through the day, and I was like, I'm going to go for a longboard ride. Go downtown, hit some nice hills, go to the store and back. And I've had 4 beers on me, one in each front pocket, one in each jacket pocket, right? And I went downtown, and I seen one of my old friends sitting underneath the bridge, and we had to talk, and I told him about everything that was going on, basically what I just mentioned to you, and my plan. I was going to go turn myself in and just keep myself straight and narrow and get out of it as easy as I could. And we had a really good time, great talk. And I was leaving, I was heading back home, going uphill about 30 miles an hour, because that longboard would cook it. It would go faster than a car could accelerate from 0 to 60. It was like 1.6 seconds. So from 0 to 40 miles an hour, it was 1.6 seconds. So I was going uphill, doing about 25, 30 on the opposite lane of traffic. So I'm on the sidewalk, but I'm on oncoming traffic. They're passing by me. And I remember having the thought, like, it's starting to be rush hour. It's getting kind of dark. There's a lot of headlights. And I was like, I'm going to wait for this intersection. I'm going to stop and wait for this intersection in case somebody's coming out. I stopped, I waited. I was like, all right, I'm good. I was like, I'm going to go into City Market. And then in the back of my head, it was like, screw it. Just get in your car, dude. Fill it full as much gas as you can. Is that credit card will let you freaking, my credit card, not anybody else's. Debit, anyway. As much as it'll let you fill it up to. And just drive. And just keep going until you're going to get caught eventually, but see how far you make it. Having that thought in the almost full frontal coming up into my mind. Turn signal on the sidewalk. I didn't have very much time to react. I was already went from stop to doing about 30 miles an hour. And there was somebody turning into their house within rush hour traffic, so they were already behind a fairly good sized vehicle, and I was coming down the sidewalk. They turned their signal on and just turned out of traffic, not trying to slow down or anything. And I remember seeing the turn signal and having the front of the car hit me right here, and then I remember waking up in the bush, and I was like, I taste blood. I was like, oh, my tooth is gone. And I was just looking on the ground like, where's my tooth at? oh God, where's my tooth at? Not really recalling that I just got hit by a fucking car. And the lady was standing over me, and she's like, "Are you okay? Do you need an ambulance?" And I was just like, I don't know. I was trying to find my tooth. If you guys see that, that'd be cool. And then I was like, man, my hands are really tingly. And so I was just staring at my fingers like, did I break anything? I was like, what happened? And so she's like, well, do you need an ambulance? And I was like, let me just feel my hands really quick, and I'll let you know. And she called an ambulance. Well, if you didn't know, most of the time they run your name when you get into an ambulance. And it doesn't really matter if it's a crime scene or not. They want to know who you are. And it pops up pretty quick if there's a warrant. And it just so happens there's a sheriff that was on that ambulance. He's like, do you have an ID, sir? And I was like, I didn't make it very far. If that was me running, I'd made it 5 freaking steps. Not even. I'm 5 feet. So that was my sign too. The universe was like, read between the lines, you're being dumb, bud. So I looked that cop dead in the face and I was like, yes, sir, I do, but I have a warrant for my arrest in Delta County at the moment. The only reason I'm in town is to drop my dogs off with my mother. I already dropped them off and I was on a ride. But it's going to come up that I have a warrant and I'm wanted. And he's like, okay, thank you for the honesty. I'm going to run your name. We'll get you to the hospital and make sure you're clear for your concussion. Well, I'll get checked out for a concussion, and if there was any issues with my teeth. But that lady claimed fault, claimed that she hit me. She didn't see me. She wasn't paying enough attention in rush hour. I had headlights, really bright blue LED running lights, and flashing hazard brake lights that go solid when I hit the brakes. I spent more money specifically on the lights for the safety. And I was always more worried about somebody hitting me than me hitting somebody else. Well, actually a deer jumping out and hitting me, but that's another story. I never really thought it'd be a car. I thought I'd be more cautious. But get to the hospital, my longboard was absolutely destroyed. The battery was warped, pretty much 45-degree angle, and it was already swelling. So I told him to leave it outside of the hospital, just in case, it's lithium and all that. And those batteries tend to. Anyway, they said everything was okay with my teeth. There was no jaw fractures, no skull fractures, and no signs of swelling or concussion. I had no memory loss. And they said I was good to go. And that sheriff came back in and was like, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to look you up Monday morning. It was the weekend, okay? So you usually, if you go to jail on the weekend, you have to sit Saturday and Sunday and wait for Monday morning to go see the judge. So, people, when they turn themselves in, they'll do it on a Monday, not a Friday night, because they have to sit all weekend in a holding cell. And so I was dropping my dogs off on the weekend. On Friday, went up, was here. Friday night, got hit by a car. And he's like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to look you up Monday morning and see if you are in Delta County's jail, and make sure you turned yourself in. And if not, then I'm going to come and find you. I have 3 addresses to look for you at. It's like, I only got 3 places to live. Like my house, my dad's house, and my mom's house, and they're all separate. Montrose, Ridgeway, Delta, Paonia, mine, Delta and Paonia, and then Columbus Springs, my mother. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm going to cry. If I could cry, I'm a little bit drunk for that, but it was so crazy, I guess. Like, I felt like I deserved every bit of it, and so it was almost not real that I was getting off so easy like that. Again, on my 3rd violation of this stuff, it was like I'm just trying to give up and let him take me so I can get it all dealt with, and it's not working. I'm just getting beat up, and So it's like, all right, I'm just gonna go home, sleep it off, and go turn myself in on Monday. And we'll start there. My mother came to pick me up from the hospital, my mother and my little sister, and we got to the house, and I cracked open another beer, and I started telling them what happened, and my little sister started making me some food, because I'd been drunk all day and just got out of the hospital. And not 5-10 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. It was that same officer that I had just been told I was okay to leave from the hospital, and his higher up supervisor type, and apparently he was not in the right to let me leave that hospital, being the 2 felonies that I would have been facing. So they came and picked me up right then and there at the house. I ended up spending Saturday, Sunday into Monday morning here in Garfield County, in the Garfield County Jail, holding cell, only to find out that I was on a no bond hold. So they really wanted me, so to speak. Like, the Delta County was like, you just hold him. Don't set any bond, no charges, hold him. So they're legally only allowed to hold me for 2 weeks. Wait, 23, 20, something, a little bit over 20 days. 27, I think. I don't know. I can't remember. But I knew when I was looking through the books, and I had all the time in the world to freaking read that. But I sat in a holding cell, drunk tank, with 8 other people for... Wait. They shuffled out these 8 other people. I was in that tank long enough to see 2 different sets of new people come in. Like, I was in there about 3 weeks. 2 weeks. Right at the end of the 2-week mark, when they brought in that next set of people, I was like, and they brought me up into booking. They gave me a room, so I didn't have to sit in that drunk tank anymore. And I was able to use a phone, finally. Actually be able to call out, besides my 1 phone number I had, and no call time or anything. I could get commission, and I could get and have a little bit more freedom. And I ended up getting a hold of the last day that they were allowed to hold me. The day before, I had gotten a hold of a lawyer or public defender, and he said he'd try to work some stuff out, because I was just sick of staying there, and I really should have waited it, because after that mark, they couldn't have charged me with anything, and they would have had to drop all my other stuff for time served, because they not legally allowed to hold me in a jail without reason. And I didn't actually commit any crimes for me getting hit by a car. And if Delta County doesn't want to pay for the extradition of me to have them transport me back to Delta, then they can't charge me with anything, because I didn't do anything wrong. Delta has to take that step up to want me. And the last freaking day, they woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, out of the cells. They're like, grab your stuff. And I was like, I'm getting out. Right on. And I was like, see you later, guys. I'll see you on the other side. And they brought me down. They put me in a little van with a box in the back of the van. Shackled me up. And straight to Delta, right into court. 9 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, went right into court. And the court judge was like, 3rd violation, did fines paid, you had plenty of chances to do all this. I don't think you should be and they was all going to be dropped to a misdemeanor if I kept straight. If I didn't do it all good, then it would be felony for forged instrument rather than forgery, which is a class 6 felony, not a class 5. So I would have got a little leeway. And in the end, I just had to do a misdemeanor for forged instrument. And that judge was uptight. Like, she said a string of, you need to get your shit straight, boy, within 5 minutes, and then was like, we will continue this case next week. So I went from staying in a drunk tank, fresh, getting hit by a car, and coming off of alcohol pretty bad, to, like, I was getting to that point of being alcoholic. I could drink a 30-pack a day and not feel it until the next morning. So spending 2 weeks in drunk tank, and then finally getting to a point where I had a good bed, to being in one of the almost, I'd say, oldest jails I've ever seen. Meat paste sandwich, like a meat paste. It was like stuck out with an ice cream scooper and then put into just 2 patties of bread with a no-bake cookie, and that was lunch every day. There was no home-cooked food there. It was all... And there were 4 of us all packed in cells during the pandemic. So it was a 23-hour lockdown. We were locked in a cell, 2-bunked cell, with 4 people, 2 beds, and 2 pads on the floor. 1 pisser. It was intense. So when that judge was like, we're not going to let you out of here, you have a lot to make up for, and I was fairly upset, fairly angry, just because I didn't want to have to sit in that cell like that with those people. Like, it was so miserable, feeling like a rat trapped in a cage, actually trapped in a cage. Going from Glenwood, it was fairly nice. Like, even the drunk tank was bigger than my normal cell. The Glenwood Springs drunk tank was bigger than my normal cell in Delta. The cells in Glenwood Springs are open cells. They're just bunks in little cubbies and hallways, and there's a line in front of the hallway. You're not supposed to cross the line after a certain time. If you have to use the bathroom, you walk up to the line, raise your hand, and they'll tell you, yeah, you can go. Or no, you have to stay. And going from that to locked in a room with 4 people and waking up anytime somebody had to poop, I was fairly upset. I was like, I would have much rather stayed in a jail like that than this one. Please get me out of here. And the next week, she had gone over my case, I guess, and she seemed a lot more lenient. And she's like, dude, after reading over the information I have, and I noticed that you didn't actually steal anything, that you had just found this in the back of a trash truck where you were working. Is that correct? I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor. And she's like, well, the owner of that check does not want to press charges on you, and so I'm okay with letting this misdemeanor charge. And I was like, oh, all right, awesome. And she's like, I'm going to give you one last chance. This is going to be if you cannot violate after this again, you will have to face 2 years in a correctional facility. But you will only take the misdemeanor charge. You will not be a felon. And I was like, okay. Reissue all my fines and all my community service again, and let me out. And the middle of winter, right 2 days before Thanksgiving, and I was wearing this. A little overshirt, but it wasn't snowing when I got hit by that car. It was almost a month period I was in jail, and getting hit by the car was, in my eyes, that lady she didn't deserve that mental pain of having to, like, I could never really understand how it would be like to hit a person like that in that situation. I guess I never really have run anybody over with a vehicle or hit anybody very severely with something. So she didn't deserve that mental stress of hitting me like that, and I wasn't gonna do anything for her. Like, she's human just as much as I am, and that was a very small price to pay for my freedom. If that wouldn't have happened, then I might have ran, and I don't know where I would have been today. But I'll tell you what, after getting hit by a car and everything in between that, losing my tooth is the only thing I really worry about. But I'm getting to be able to whistle through it, so whistle to the birds and find a lot more self-love with myself. I'm completely off of papers and haven't been in trouble or had to really talk to a cops with serious situations for stuff for myself in over 3 years now. I'm working on just me and myself and my addictive tendencies, and I don't drink nearly as much as I did. Like, it's a rare occasion if I have a tall can every 2 or 3 day span. I used to drink a 30-pack a day at least. I had to have it. Now I drink a little bit of a beer. I'm like, it tastes really weird. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I'm slowing down on my medical marijuana that I do use, and just learning a lot more, not self-discipline, but self-love, care for myself, and how the most important things in your life could just slip away at any moment because you did not care. And there's no words that I know that can express that, what I'm trying to say there. It only takes a second to lose yourself, but in that 1 second you lose everything about who you were, your demeanor in your life. Don't ever give up on your heart. You can't. It's still there. It'll kick your butt. I'll tell you firsthand. And if your heart doesn't do it, your ancestors in the universe will. And you'll see those signs. Take them and use them. Don't ignore the fact that you have to care. You will care. That's what makes us human. It's okay to be a freaking messed up person. It's okay to be messed up in the head. It's not okay to be messed up in the heart. There's a lot of hatred and a lot of darkness in that, and I've never been that type of person. I've never wanted to run from my pain or run from my problems. I've always been one to stand straight up to it and face it. And I feel like I've had that light inside me for so long and never did know it. And the moment I started to lose it, the universe kind of came in, was, hey, you're stronger than that. Don't think that stuff. Don't think that stuff. Think about the better. Think about what's going to become of you making that large step you don't want to take. Like, what's going to become of me? I should have been thinking, what's going to become of me after I get out of jail? Rather than, what am I going to do when I turn myself in? What do I need to do before I turn myself in? And that's what made me doubt doing it. Like, it was all the stress of it. I guess, questioning anything is bad. Questions cause a lot of stress, especially when you don't have any fucking answers to them. The one thing I would ever give anybody advice for when you're stressed, that you don't want to be stressed, you're trying to figure out why, or you're overwhelmed, take as deep a breath as you can, and not just one, a few of them. Go put yourself away from that situation and take a minute to discipline yourself to breathe. And people forget that, especially when they're angry or energies are... People forget to breathe when they're... And if you want to understand what you're actually getting into and your brain's not breathing, maybe your body's taking over and your mind's not really helping. And this video's getting a little bit long, but that's kind of the basis of everything there. Series of unfortunate events that happened in my life to make me who I am now, and how much peace I'm finding with myself every day as I go. Just remembering to breathe and take every moment as a moment. And if it stresses me out and I have the ability to fix it to make it to where it doesn't stress me out, I'm doing it. If I can't, I'm leaving it there. It's fine. It's all good. It doesn't involve me. It doesn't need to... I have all the power. And there's that weird saying, ignorance is bliss. It is. Yeah. If you don't want it to matter, it won't matter. You can ignore anything, you can tell yourself anything and believe it to be true. You have a lot of power in that mind. Sir, Nick, you have a lot of power here. Use it for good, for your own health. And that radiates around you. I think there was something I wanted to say, but I don't quite remember. I don't. At one point I was trying to make these videos to maybe find a way to sustainability from it, but I don't want to make money off of people just watching me on a computer screen. Or I don't want to make money anymore. I want to make a village. I want to make friends. I want to relight the candle that's been blown out for somebody else. I want to show somebody that you don't need money, you don't need wealth, you don't need all this stuff to be happy. You just need yourself. Never doubt yourself. Live fucking hard, man, because it's gonna be, but you try to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, try something else, you know. I spend a lot of time alone, though, nowadays. Just sometimes it's easier to heal when you're not walking down somebody else's path and you're trying to make your own. Yeah, in the long run, it's made me kind of a loner or distant to people. I like my dogs. They've always been there for me. I try to like people like I'm a dog, right? If you're mean to me, you bark at me, I might either bark back or I'm just gonna leave you and walk away. Give me belly rubs, I'll give you belly rubs. It's that essence of just love. Not love. Essence of life. And the beauty of it. Well, I don't know how to do the whole sayonara. I'm taking off, but I do appreciate every single one of you, each individual that has taken the time to watch this and hear my story. It took a lot for me to get through all that, and I was not in a very happy mindset during most of that. To be fully truthful, it was, maybe that's for another video, but my mental state was not the healthiest, and these last 2 years have shown me more light and beauty in my eyes and my aura than anything I've ever thought I'd experience. Like the amount of bliss that I hold in my heart. It's like, and it protects me. And so I let it. I just hold it and try to enjoy it. And I hope that you guys can learn how to do that too. I don't think I have even the slightest clue of how it works, but I know that it's thousands of times better than that alternative of living in that dark and that doubt and that hurt and holding on to it. It's one of the Buddhists' practice is to be able to give without ever expecting anything in return, to not hold any to let go of all and any materialistic objects. The only object that I need to hold on to is my body, because I can't let it go. This is my responsibility. This is something that I have to be proud of, that I don't want to have to let go. And money is just a symbol. Food is just a symbol. Kindness towards another, or sympathy towards another, all just kind of, like, okay, that might have come off a little weird. I say kindness as in like seeing that somebody's having a bad time and you come up with some drinks and some food and be like, hey, let's go for a drive, let's go to the bar, or let's go to the park and we'll go maybe to a concert. And what I mean by kindness, that's kind of a symbol. It's a distraction, and if done wrong, practiced wrong, it can cause bad habits. Practice good habits. Don't let your fleshy meat car take control, because it will. Muscle memory takes everything, and that's what your body does. It's like it takes at least 29 days to make or break a habit. It would take 29 days for me to practice my body a certain motion, the same motion. I would consciously have to, if I want to unconsciously do this every day for an hour, I will sit there and do this and think about it. For 29 days. On the 30th day, I will sit down with my mental clock, and my arm will do that for an hour period, almost instinctively perfect. Your mental clock runs a lot, and your muscle memory, it tries to help you out. Pacemaker for your heart, your lungs, how you breathe, your eyes. You don't think about most of that stuff. Not all the time. Like, most of the time we just breathe, we blink, we talk. That's all muscle memory. Practice good habits, friends. Lots of love. Hold your third eye open. It's all like a third eye kiss. And so you just kind of come up, close your eyes, and you butt head with somebody. And it's that namaste. I recognize you for your soul inside of you, not this body that's driving. I recognize you for that, what you are, what is creating that body. And if I respect you, you'll feel that energy. It's always very obvious. So, much love, my friends. As my old master would say, Jai Sadatma.